My coworkers keep asking about my assault. I'm an executive assistant at an accounting firm and I'm averaging between 60 to 70 hours a week. By nature of spending that much time with them, I'm much closer with my coworkers than I have been at any other workplace. I was recently assaulted after a horrible date went catastrophically wrong, leaving me with a very obvious bruise on my lip from being bitten, and fingerprints on one of my forearms. I've been wearing long sleeves to obscure the fingerprint bruising, but no amount of concealer has been enough to hide the teeth marks on my lip. Under normal circumstances I would probably take a week off to try and recover physically and mentally, but with the tax deadline coming up there's just way too much to do for that to be an option and I can't work from home. Taking the time off would mean adding at least 10 to 15 hours of work to every other admin's plate, and doing that would only make me feel worse about the situation. Obviously I would prefer not to recount the details of a very traumatic incident over and over again, but every time I walk to the break room, copier, or bathroom I find myself cornered by another well-meaning coworker who wants to interrogate me about what happened. A simple "I'm fine but would prefer not to discuss it" hasn't been enough to deter the increasingly intrusive questions, even when firmly repeated. The general response when I push back on giving more information is something along the lines of "I need to make sure you're safe. But we're friends, why don't you trust me enough to tell me?" Or "You can't come into the office looking like that and expect us not to ask questions. We're a small accounting firm so we don't have a HR department, and the person who would probably handle a HR issue is the person trying the hardest to get more information out of me. I understand the bruising is quite shocking, but I feel like I'm entitled to privacy during what has become a very difficult period of my life. Update: my coworkers keep asking about my assault. Unfortunately, things got significantly worse before they got better. One of the other admins in my office, Jane, would not leave me alone about it. She said she just wanted to help, so I said that what I really needed was to stop being asked about it constantly, and asked her to help field off the rest of the office. I said that I knew everyone meant well, but being interrogated about it 50 times a day was making it impossible to focus on my work, and that if she could discreetly tell our coworkers to cut it out I would be very grateful. She agreed, but instead of doing anything helpful she convinced another of our coworkers, Jack, that cornering me in the kitchen and refusing to let me leave unless I told him what happened would solve all of my issues. From what I pieced together after the fact, she thought that I wasn't telling anyone what happened because I was afraid of whoever did this to me and that having a strong man on my side to protect me would fix it. Later that afternoon I went to the kitchen to make a mug of tea, and Jack came up behind me to ask about the bruises again. I didn't know he was there, so I jumped when he started talking, then tried scooting past him so I wouldn't be blocked into a small room by a very large and strong man. He put his hand up on the wall to prevent me from leaving, and said he wasn't going to move until I told him what happened. I feel somewhat bad about this, but I completely lost it on him. Everything had been building up for days at this point, and I just couldn't take it anymore. The constant pestering was hard enough, but being physically trapped by a man so soon after being assaulted pushed me over the edge. I started yelling. "What the hell do you think happened, Jack? Are the literal bite marks not enough to get the point across? I have been doing everything I can to keep coming in here every day so that everyone else won't have to take on another 15 hours of work this week when all I want to do is curl up into a ball and die, and the only thanks I get is to constantly be cornered and interrogated about my face. I think it's pretty clear what happened. I don't understand why you think this is any of your goddamn business. I am traumatized. I am trying to do everyone here a favor in the middle of the worst thing that has ever happened to me, and every single one of you has only made things 10 times worse. You are not helping and I cannot do this anymore." I was hysterically sobbing. Jack was stumbling over himself trying to apologize and get out of my way, and since literally everyone in the office was within earshot of me yelling, every other coworker was either staring at us horrified or guiltily trying to avoid eye contact with me. I didn't have it in me to try and do anything else, so I walked to my desk, grabbed my keys, and left everything else behind. Luckily I was able to get an emergency session with my therapist scheduled that evening, where we decided that a few days in an inpatient facility would be hugely beneficial in my recovery. I'm still frustrated with my office, because I don't think that would have been necessary had they just listened to me, but it is what it is. I notified my immediate supervisor that I would be using PTO for the rest of the tax season, and that I was planning on returning at the end of April, but I'd be in touch with more specific details when I was able. My office pays for every employee an A+1 to go on a week-long, all expenses paid vacation to Costa Rica right after tax season ends as a thank you for all of our hard work. I almost didn't go because I was so afraid of seeing my coworkers again after my outburst, but I decided I'd worked too damn hard to turn down a very expensive stay in an all-inclusive resort. The airport gate was the first time I'd seen anyone since my breakdown, and it was incredibly awkward. For the most part, people seemed too ashamed to talk to me. At all. One of my supervisors did come over to personally apologize for not stepping in earlier, and said that the entire company really just wanted me to enjoy the vacation. She said she couldn't think of a single member of our team who deserved it more than me, and that she didn't want to get into things until we were actually back at work, but wanted to tell me that I would not be facing any repercussions so that I didn't have to worry about it while I was supposed to be on vacation. She also let me know that the company would be upgrading me from economy to business on the flight there and back, giving me a gift certificate for the resort spa, issuing me a bonus in my next paycheck as a token of their appreciation for all my hard work, as well as granting me an extra week of PTO to replace the time off I'd had to use at the end of tax season. The resort ended up being big enough that I didn't see a single one of my coworkers the entire week we were there, which I will forever be grateful for. Seeing as my life is not an episode of Criminal Minds, I'm still pretty upset with the way my coworkers treated me in their quest for juicy information.